is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea, then the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Emily Ferrier, here to bring you some of my favorite weird news stories from the past few days. So starting us off this week, in the U.S., a small town in New Hampshire, the only lawman was let go this week. Richard Lee, the now former chief of police in Croydon, was asked to turn in his patrol car and his uniform. And he did, on the spot, and headed for a snowy walk home in only boots, a hat, and his underwear. Tensions over the fate of this tiny town's one-man police town has already been running high, with the local news outlets chronicling board resignations with heated meetings. It all erupted anew Tuesday when Croydon's three-person town board voted to abolish the department for good and shift its work to state police, move that led the community's loan officer to march at a town hall in his underwear. Ousted Police Chief Lee says members of the board turned to the topic without warning at the end of a public meeting, ordering him to hand over his uniform, badge, and keys immediately. So he stripped off his turtleneck, ballistic vest, and pants. Clad in a shirt, hat, briefs, and boots, Lee recounted, he said, "See ya," and walked out to the nighttime snowstorm, turning away three townspeople's offers for a lift, and he walked almost a mile before someone called his wife. Like so much of the drama that led to Tuesday's blow-up, the details are in dispute. Lee says the board did not protest his half-clothed exit. Valley News reported that he'd said otherwise. The board's chairman, Russell Edwards, told the Washington Post that he insisted twice that the strip down was not necessary. However the episode went down, it's shown confusion and discord for the community of less than 800 people. What kind of a town lets their chief of police walk out in a snowstorm in his underwear? One resident, Rick Simpson, told the New Hampshire union leader. Lee says he's come to love Croydon since being its sole law enforcer in 2000. Worked out of a cramped office town hall. He knows everyone's name. One elderly woman, he said, even entrusted him with an envelope meant to be opened upon her death. He lived 7 miles away in Newport and used to serve on the town's police force. But things in Croydon began to sour a few weeks back. He recounted when he clashed with the board about his performance. In March, he told the Valley News people voted to ditch him as a result of the complaints. "I obviously didn't want it to turn into a circus," the board member said as questions swirled about the vote's legality. Rising to Lee's defense, the town people forced a vote that overturned the decision after a bitter fight. "This whole thing is sickening," another reported. "It's ripping our community apart." Lee said he'd simply gone about business as usual, and then all heck breaks loose. Driving around the countryside and enjoying the deer and birds and trees. "We didn't feel that we were getting the value for our money," Edwards told the union leader. On Thursday, he referred to the post-meeting minutes, which stated that New Hampshire police had already covered 81% of Croydon's needs. Lee told the Post that his phone had been ringing constantly with supportive calls from his friends in Croydon, not to mention reporters chasing a story that had gone national. It's been so busy that he hasn't that he had to delay his search for a job. So he said, but he wouldn't go back to his job in Croydon, and if he did, he'd make sure to stock his office with a change of clothes. In other news, I wanted to find some dramatic ways that people got fired. Here's one. For any workplace freshman out there, the thing that any boss wants from new employees, simple. Some good old-fashioned initiative. If you got the sense and gumption to be a master of your own destiny, you'll go far in business. But, as this Reddit user will tell you, if what the boss isn't expecting is for you to take the initiative to go wild with the credit card. He used the company credit card and got himself arrested a few hours later. We hired a sales guy who lasted for 5 days. He used the company credit card to treat his girlfriend and himself to a very nice dinner. And then he promptly got himself arrested for drug possession. He missed next Monday due to still being in jail, and then he got fired that day. Here's one guy that was fired after a case of the stomach flu. A friend of mine called in sick to McDonald's, and he said if he didn't come in, he was fired. And then he went and got fired for throwing up on all of the burgers. The store shut down for a day. A lot of people saw it and said that they would never eat there again. If throwing up over that isn't enough, here's a guy who was fired for being scarily good at his job. Yeah. He was fired for being too enthusiastic. Landed a job at a haunted house attraction that his friend got, and 90 minutes into a date, he got a call from a haunted house telling me if I don't come and pick up my friend, I can pick him up from jail. Caused $1,000 worth of damage. To add spooky effects by picking up a chain and rattling it against the window to scare the tourists inside, except the rattling was more like whacking. 150-old leaded glass window. Hit with a chain repeatedly. A glass window. It shattered, costing about $1,000 worth of damage. And it wasn't just chain swinging. The chain swinging guy who lost his job, the guy that had got him the job, never went back because he was so embarrassed. Let's see. This one is best intentions. Okay. But if you have a fear of heights, you could get fired for it. He had to inspect telecommunications towers, so he had to climb hundreds of feet in the air to carry around maintenance. You'd think that you'd have read that in the job description and be aware of it. But he did the training fine, practiced on the tower, but when it came to the real thing, he found that his prospects were about to plummet. He got maybe 60 feet up and just froze. The guy working with had to go up and basically pry his fingers off the tower and very slowly help him to the ground. I guess he didn't realize that he was scared of heights until the moment. And finally, we'll finish with this cathartic story of face-to-face customer service jobs. It's tiring work, underpaid, and dealing with the general public is a thankless task. Every now and again, we get ours. A service employee told a customer rightly to F themselves after she asked for her deli meat to just be a little thinner for the 5th time. Her manager promptly fired her because, customer has to be right. When we return, pricey cereal and other ridiculously overpriced products. So then that's what we're going to talk about when we get back. Don't go anywhere.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back. Before we left, we were talking about weird ways to get fired. And now we're talking about some cereal. Food companies plan to revive cereal sales, included selling boxes of the breakfast food for $13 a pop. Launched late last year, this morning Summit cereal contains dried cherries and cranberries, pumpkin seeds, and whole grain cereal flakes to enhance health-conscious consumers. The CEO, Jeff Harming, told the annual Consumer Analyst Group of New York in an investor conference on Tuesday, we're innovating a new product that commands premium price points, including the Morning Summit product, which has almonds as the first ingredient and sells for $13 a box. Isn't cereal supposed to be the cheap option for breakfast? Isn't that the whole point of cereal? You know? Like, if I wanted an expensive breakfast, I would go out for brunch every day. Come on, this is ridiculous. So I wanted to talk about some other ridiculously overpriced things that have sold over the years, some of which you're probably not going to believe. First off, a $1.2 million toilet paper roll. An Australian company that goes by the name Toilet Paper Man, very apt, has sold the world's most expensive roll of toilet paper at $1.2 million. And yes, that's true. According to their website, toilet paper comes in 24 karat gold and is 3-ply, so you know, cushy. If you decide to buy it, they will personally deliver it to your home accompanied by a bottle of champagne to, you know, get the juices flowing, as it were. A $60,000 bottle of water. This particular bottle was called Acqua di Cristallo, which was fetched at an auction for $60,000 in 2010. Why? The bottle is handmade glass covered in 24 karat gold, and on the inside, a blend of natural springs from water from Fiji and France, mixed with glacier water from Iceland. Glacier water. What is wrong with me? And then, and it has 5 milligrams of 23 karat gold dust in the water, because obviously, if you're going to drink water, it better be gold, you know. Back in 2010, Australian brewing company Nile Brewing made 30 bottles of beer using Antarctic ice. According to brewer John Stallwood, over 90% of the beer is water. So the Antarctic Ale could possibly be the world's oldest and purest beer. It sold for an incredible $800 at an auction. That is not worth it. That's a lot of money for beer. It'll be a very expensive night out. A $250,000 shirt. Entrepreneur Dada Fung of India, decided to create this $250,000 shirt made of pure gold. Yeah, there's a theme. Obviously, if it's going to be this expensive, there's going to be a lot of gold involved. This extravagant 7-pound shirt. 7-pound shirt. Took a team of goldsmiths from Ranker Jewelers 15 days to complete. They see the shirt as an elite status symbol. Just be careful where you're walking with it. It's a good workout, though. A $2,300 hot dog. Yep. Created by New York City's 235th, world's most expensive hot dog is 12 inches long, truffle enriched, and has marbled Wagyu beef, white truffle butter, saffron-infused ketchup, and other fancy things that make it a very expensive... It's a hot dog. Again, that's supposed to be the cheapest thing in the... I mean, come on. The Aurora de Monte fountain pen costs $1.47 million and is covered in De Beers diamonds and has 18-karat solid gold nib. And to top it all off, only one of these bad boys is made per year. $250 worth of popcorn. Burco's Popcorn holds the title for the world's most expensive popcorn. These savory bites are covered in gold flakes and go for about $250 a gallon. But wait, you can actually save by buying it in bulk, because the 6.5 gallon only costs $1,000. So, that's gross. I mean, not far off than current movie theater popcorn prices, right? $400,000 sunglasses. Swiss luxury brand Chopard will sell you the world's most expensive sunglasses for the low price of over $400,000. These sunglasses have 51 river diamonds on them and are made from 60 grams of 24-karat gold. A $600 coffee. This is bizarre. These coffee beans, known as kopi luwak, have to be eaten fully digested by an animal called a civet, an Indonesian animal, and the enzymes in their stomach alter the chemical makeup of the beans, making them extra tasty when he craps them out. So you're buying $600 per pound or $50 per cup of poo coffee. You're buying somebody else's poo, and that's fine with you for some reason. $1,060 cupcake. The Golden Phoenix at Dubai's Bloomsbury Cupcake costs $1,062 for one. Made of edible gold and the finest chocolate in the world. It comes served on a covered Valari 24-karat gold Empire cake stand. A $9.8 million chess set. Nearly $10 million chess set. It took 30 people to make it, since it has diamonds, emeralds, pearls, rubies, and sapphires embedded in it. It's also part of the infamous Charles Hollander collection, known for turning ordinary things into luxury items. $100 toothpaste. If you want toothpaste with an extra dose of Renew, it's going to cost you a whopping $100. Theodent 300 paste, which contains Renew, is a proprietary combination of chocolate extract with various minerals to help strengthen tooth enamel. That is how you really find out just how far you can extend that final bit, that final piece. It takes squeezing the toothpaste to a whole new level. So those are ridiculously overpriced things that people have legitimately bought. And now, these are actually just cute, really, the next ones that we're talking about. When we come back, watching TV helps birds make better food choices. Maybe we can learn something from them. Probably not, though. So, stay tuned for that.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back. We're talking about some ridiculously overpriced things, and now, by watching videos of each other eating, blue tits, don't laugh. This is the name of a bird. And great tits can learn to avoid foods that taste disgusting and are potentially toxic. A new study has found. I wonder whose money went into this research, to study birds watching TV. Seeing the disgust response in others helps them recognize distasteful prey by their conspicuous markings without having to taste them, and can potentially increase both the birds and their prey's survival rate. Study published in the Journal of Animal Ecology showed that blue tits learned best by watching their own species, whereas great tits learned just as well from great tits and blue tits. In addition to learning directly from trial and error, birds can also decrease the likelihood of bad experiences and potential poisoning by watching others. Such social transmission of information about novel prey could have significant effects on prey evolution and help explain why different bird species flock together. Blue tits and great tits forage together and have similar diets, but they may differ in their hesitation to try novel food. By watching others, they can learn quickly and safely which prey are best to eat. This can reduce the time and energy they invest into trying different prey and help them avoid the ill effects of toxic prey, says Lisa Hamlin, a former PhD student at the University of Cambridge, the Department of Zoology, now Macquarie University, Sydney, and first author of the report. This is the first study to show that blue tits are just as good as great tits at learning by observing, and probably better than most humans. Previously, scientists thought that great tits were better, but now it looks like they're just as good. This new work shows that using social information to avoid bad outcomes is especially important in nature. Many insect species, such as firebugs, and tiger moths have developed conspicuous markings and bitter-tasting chemical defenses to deter predators. But before birds learn to associate the markings with disgusting taste, these species are at high risk of being eaten because they can't stand out. Conspicuous warning colors are an effective anti-predator defense for insects, but only after predators have learned to associate the warning signal with a disgusting taste. Before that, these insects are an easy target for naive, uneducated predators. Blue tits and great tits forage together in the wild, so they have many opportunities to learn from each other. If prey avoidance behavior spreads quickly through the predator populations, this could benefit ongoing survival of the prey species significantly and help drive its evolution. The research showed that the researchers showed each bird a video of another bird's response as it ate a disgusting prey item. And the TV bird's disgust and response to unpalatable food, including vigorous beak wiping and head shaking, provided the information for the watching bird. The use of the video allowed complete control of the information each bird saw. The prey, shown on TV, consisted of small pieces of almond flakes glued inside white paper packets. In some of the packets, the almond flakes had been soaked in bitter-tasting solution. 2 black symbols printed on the outsides of the packages indicated palatability. Tasty prey had to cross the symbol that blended into the background, and disgusting prey that had a conspicuous square symbol. Now, the TV watching birds were then presented with the different novel prey that was either tasty or disgusting to see if they had learned from the birds on TV. Both blue tits and gray tits ate fewer of the disgusting prey packets after watching a bird on TV showing disgust in response to those packets. Sort of like subliminal messaging, you know? When we watch people drink, you know, if it's like a slam campaign or something for, let's say, Coke and Pepsi, right? Say there was a campaign from Pepsi slamming Coke, right? Where they said that it tasted disgusting. It was like a part of us would be like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I guess it's gross, right? And then we just stopped drinking it, but just because we saw it on TV. Don't believe what you see on TV. Remember when they tricked us in the 90s with the house hippo thing? You can't believe everything you see on TV. I really thought that house hippo was real. I was so disappointed at the end of that commercial. I want a house hippo. They're so cute. They're so little. I want a tiny little house hippo. Birds and all other predators have to still work out which potential food is worth eating in terms of benefits, such as nutritional content and costs, such as the level of toxic defense chemicals. So they're working on nutritionists, school degrees amongst their communities. No, but watching others can actually influence their food preferences and help to avoid unpalatable foods. In our previous, using the great tits as a model predator, we found that if one bird sees another being repulsed by a type of prey, then both birds learn to avoid in the future. By extending the research, we now see that different bird species can learn from each other too. Says Dr. Rose Thorogood at the University of Cambridge's Department of Zoology, who is now at the University of Helsinki's High Life Institute of Life and Science in Finland, who led this research. She says, this increases the potential audience that can learn by watching others and helps to drive the evolution of the prey species. In other words, watch more TV, right? That's what I got from this. That's definitely what they meant, right? Monkey see, monkey do. Birdie see, birdie do. Yeah. That's what I got from it. When we come back, more bird news. Because I'm feeling the bird news. I'm on board with the bird news, you know? So get on board with the bird news, because there's more bird news when we return from the break.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Talking about how we are now teaching birds to watch TV. And now, a British parrot went missing for 4 years, and it returned speaking Spanish. Parrots are highly intelligent creatures, and their learning capacity is quite impressive. So this story about a gray African parrot called Nigel will surely be a little shocking for you. He returned to his owner after 4 years of wandering around the world. But the most stunning part of this whole thing is that he learned to speak Spanish while traveling. The only thing that I can say in Italian is, "Can I please have a coffee?" That's it. That is the only thing that I learned. Traveling around Italy for 3 weeks. I got none of it. And this bird, I mean, it's 4 years, but it's a bird, you know? Learned to speak Spanish while traveling. Doesn't that make you feel like an idiot, you know? Like, this is, I mean, they really showed me up, you know? It really made me feel like I should be doing more. I'm going to get back on those apps, you know, that help you learn the languages. I think I should really learn some more languages if birds are schooling me in that. So Nigel flew away from his home in California, and then once he returned to his owner, Darren Chicks, his British accent was gone. He used to have a British accent, and it was replaced by a Spanish one. Another peculiar thing was that he kept asking about someone named Larry. The missing parrot was found by Jaleesa Sperling in Torrance, and she mentioned that Nigel was speaking Spanish to her, asking what happened. After searching online for missing parrot ads, she found someone who was looking for a lost companion. It turned out to be an entirely different owner, but luckily, she called the Animal Lovers Pet Store. She kept all their receipts from previous sales, and through that, they were actually able to track down Nigel's owner. At first, both the parrot and Darren were confused by the meeting since it had been so long since they last saw each other. And now, Darren says he instantly recognized his lost pet when he saw it. He just couldn't believe his eyes, as Nigel had been gone for such a long time, and was speaking a different language. Are we sure this was the same bird? You know? Anyway. Parrots are very cool, very interesting. I love their ability to speak. I find that whole thing very interesting. I think it's very cool. I didn't know that they could learn multiple languages, and I didn't know that they kind of like knew what was going on. I thought they were just repeating sounds, to be honest. So that one was kind of shocking to me. And it really does make me want to go back to school or something. Because, wow. Parrot knows 2 languages. And well. In other parrot news, because, why not? The police were called to break up a fight between a man and his parrot in Brighton, Ontario, in Canada. An Ontario man ran afoul of provincial police this week after spending a night at home with his pet parrot. Police in Brighton, between Toronto and Kingston, said they were originally called to the home at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, after what the neighbors heard was believed to be a domestic dispute. Northumberland OPP Constant Steve Bates said the neighbors knew the home was usually occupied by a couple, but the police only found one person when they arrived. They heard him yelling and saying, "I hope you die," and so forth, Bates said. Pretty aggressive language. For a bird, right? But, repetitive. So, Bates said, "We attended and located the male of the household alone in the house, screaming at his pet parrot, who was, quoting, quote unquote, beaking off at him." His words. The man had clearly been drinking, Bates said. Is anyone surprised by that fact? Adding that the parrot did not appear to be hurt in any way. Police did not lay charges. Bates described them as very interesting. One of attending officers added, "Such incidents sometimes create a welcome diversion. These are the kinds of stories that police run into all the time." Pause? What? What do you mean that's police run into those kinds of stories all the time? All the time. This is happening. Right? All the time? I somehow don't believe that. Just add some levity to the job, they say. Right? All the time. They're being called for parrots. Turns out they kind of are, because also this week, an alarmed neighbor called police after hearing what she thought was a woman screaming, "Help, help, let me out," but it turned out to be a parrot. 4 sheriff's deputies responded to a residence in Lake Worth Beach in Florida and found a man working on his car in his driveway. Screams that led the neighbor to believe that it was a woman being held captive. Can be heard shortly before the deputies arrive. "I'll bring the screamer out to you," says the man who has not been named, but he told the deputies after being questioned about the scary noise coming from his home. Moments later, he retrieved the source of the shrieks, his 40-year-old parrot, Rambo. The bird is seen in the video greeting officers, who appear to share a laugh before leaving their home. Our deputies in Lake Worth Beach came to the help of someone screaming for help. Hilarity ensued, the Palm Beach County Sheriff's officer said on Facebook. Rambo's owner explained that they'd been changing the brakes on his wife's car, and the pet was outside on the porch where he was singing and talking. I introduced the officers to Rambo. We all had a good laugh. And so did the neighbor that called in. Sometimes Rambo yells, "Help, help me out," something I taught him when I was a kid. And Rambo lived in a cage. Be careful what you teach parrots, because they'll rat you out. When we come back, the weird ways that technology has failed us.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
All right, welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about a lot of birds, and now Carrie Paul and her partner were planning on driving to the Northern California wilderness for their Valentine's Day weekend getaway, but when they left the city behind, they left behind strong cell phone reception and ended up stranded on a remote highway. The couple were driving in a smart car that they'd rented through a ride-sharing app, Gig Car. When the app lost a stable connection with the car, it eventually shut the vehicle down. Paul happens to be a technology reporter and wrote about her ordeal. Gig Car has since refunded her trip and added a credit to her account. In a statement, Gig Car's parent company, AAA, Northern California, told it, as it happens, they deeply apologize for what happened, adding that they committed to improving our service and customer care. Will assess the situation for learnings. So they explained what had happened. It's all pretty crazy, you know, that it kind of reminds me of that episode of The Office a little bit. You know, where he drives into a lake. And actually, this isn't the first time that technology has failed people like this. So let's talk about the other great times that technology has made a silly fail. This one's called Ringgate. The Apple HomePod, the smart home speaker, launched as Apple's answer to the Amazon Echo and Google Home speakers. But the new device came with problems. First world problems, but problems nonetheless. The new device was quickly found to be leaving rings marked on wooden surfaces. The new problem was swiftly dubbed Ringgate. Though it didn't ruin people's lives, it certainly raised some eyebrows. Let's see what's next. Oh, yes. In the early hours of the morning, January 2018, residents of Hawaii were bombarded with notifications on their phones, televisions, and radios, warning of an inbound ballistic missile in the end of the world. A follow-up message on the broadcast nearly an hour later said the first message was a false alarm. It absolutely caused panic. And recently, there was another one just like that, where there was a warning that the nuclear power plant in Pickering, Ontario was having a meltdown, and that residents within 10 miles of it should vacate. And then that was also a false alarm. So, end of the world notifications on phones. Scary stuff. How many times do we hear about a website or social media site being hacked and users' data being breached and sold online. It's so common now, it's almost dull. Seems that your personal data might be vulnerable in other ways too. Negligent companies would be the cause in some cases. One such story, a company had gone out of business and its assets were being sold off. Unfortunately, those assets included multiple computer servers which hadn't been wiped and contained the data of over 3 million customers. Lives may not have been ruined, but they certainly were inconvenienced in 2018 when consumer drones shut down Gatwick Airport. I was there at that time, actually. Drones were spotted dangerously flying near the airport within the airspace. As a result, planes were grounded and around 1,000 flights were canceled. This problem also led to a change in the rules and regulations surrounding drone use, not to mention all sorts of headaches for everyone involved. Hoverboards became a bit of a craze back in 2016 and sold by the thousands across the world. Even when they started catching fire and exploding, they still continued to sell. But plenty of people fell and hurt themselves too. All boo-boos. There's actually Mike Tyson. It makes an appearance in the best hoverboard fails of the year. If you want to check that out. A woman trusted her GPS so much that she drove it into a lake. A Canadian woman's sat-nav presumed that there would be a ferry boat launch sited lakeside, but surely the 23-year-old who parked her car in a lake in Ontario could have been more aware of her surroundings and trusted technology just a little bit less. Police described her as a little embarrassed. Luckily, she escaped unscathed. Facebook, made a couple of faux pas recently. One that stands out to us and most people's minds is the Cambridge Analytica scandal, where Facebook has essentially been used by foreign governments to shape the political makeup on other nations. Donald Trump's presidential campaign and Brexit have the power and influence of Facebook to thank. But generally, people are less and less trusting of Facebook and the company's apparent attitude towards users' privacy. Young model Heidi Ye posed for an advertisement for a plastic surgery firm and didn't realize that it would scupper her relationship and career thanks to social networkers. The ad, which pictured her alongside a male model and 3 digitally altered children, went viral and was shared millions of times. Many commenters then mistakenly thought it was Ye's own family pictured, provoking much ridicule. And prospective clients even presumed that she had plastic surgery and wouldn't book her. Successful PR woman Justine Seiko became infamous for a short time in 2013 thanks to a post on Twitter. Just before her plane left for Cape Town in South Africa, she tweeted what was to be seen as a hugely racist comment. Going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding, I'm white. Naturally, it went viral, and she subsequently claimed it wasn't meant to be taken literally. But the public shaming cost her job and others. And Family Guy actually made a parody of that. Last one, and then we got to take a break. Microsoft AI Tweet Girl becomes a Hitler-loving sex bot. Part of a tech experiment, Microsoft created this to have conversations online in the style of a typical teenager. However, the company had to pull after some of her responses became offensive, including comments about Hitler, George Bush, and incestual sex. So we got to take a break. When we come back, more of this.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
I decided to continue with these for the rest of the pod because they're very interesting. So we're going to continue with this. Google. So we were talking about the fails in internet history. Google dropped the mic, an April Fool's joke that backfired. Google's April Fool's Day pranks are usually very funny and innovative. However, in 2016, the decision to add a button to Gmail that allows users to drop the mic during conversations seriously backfired. By pressing the send mic drop button, recipients didn't just get an email, but a gif of a minion dropping a mic in a rather insulting gesture. As the mic drop button was next to the usual send button, reports started coming in of serious professional emails accidentally having the gif attached. Considering that the certain software sends emails containing chosen avatars, you should always be wary of selecting one joke, selecting a joke one, especially if you want to be taken seriously. Like Clue Don't might be an interesting Twitter account, but it looks like a particular faux pas was genuine. I've been applying for jobs from my Hotmail, which uses my MSN profile pic, which I've realized is actually a bear. So, be aware of that. For a brief time in 2014, swatting became popular. Hoax calls that were made to the police, sending armed forces to the homes of innocent gamers who posted live streams of gameplays in a service like Twitch. The raids were then captured in real time in the live feed. Jordan Matheson was one who was swatted by an online troll. It is very stupid. That was one of the stupidest trends ever. Raja Ogden collapsed during the triathlon in Western Australia, claiming that she'd been hit by a drone. There are conflicting reports on whether she was actually hit by the flying device or she fainted after being startled by one, but needless, you should really be careful when you're piloting quadcopters in public places. Another stupid tweet. When developers conference goer Hank tweeted what he thought to be a harmless geeky innuendo, fellow attendee decided to publicly shame him. It resulted both in Hank and the accuser, Adria Richards, having their lives ruined. The tweet read, "I'd fork that guy's repo," in reference to forking software in a lewd way. Richards stood up and took the tweeter's photo. Both of them ended up losing their jobs in a vicious online hate campaign. Bill Gates would like to add a Control-Alt-Delete button combinations. Microsoft founder Bill Gates admitted that opting for 3-button key combination to bring up login details and reboot was an error. It was a mistake. We could have had a single button, but the guy who did the IBM keyboard design didn't want to give us our single button. Another stupid tweet. Connor Riley decided to celebrate a job offered by Cisco with fun and friendly personal tweet. "Cisco just offered me a job. Now I have to weigh the utility of a fatty paycheck against the daily commute to San Jose and hating the work. Cisco replied, "Who is the hiring manager? I'm sure they would love to know that you'll hate the work. We here at Cisco are versed in the web." Bum, bum, bum. Why would you do that? Come on. When a fusion documentary maker, Kevin Rose, asked two world-class hackers to tear his digital life apart, little did he know just how deeply they could access his information. He discovered just how easy it was for them to access everything he owned, his money, his technology, his life. They could even spy on him through his webcam. Luckily, their hacking spree ended as his experiment ceased, but it left him rather paranoid. After Jamaican sprinter Usain Bolt won the 200-meter final at the World Championships in Beijing last year, a cameraman on an actual Segway lost control and hurtled into the back of Bolt's legs. Could have been much worse. Bolt escaped relatively unscathed, but don't know about the cameraman. Although many claim that the Panama Papers were seized through an email hack, it could be something far simpler to blame. The website of law firm Mossack Fonseca runs on WordPress, and the company hadn't updated their software for several months. This led to an exploit being allegedly found in an unpatched plugin, which security firms believe could have been used to get access to highly sensitive materials. So update your software if you own a website. Google's self-driving car injures its employees in a crash. This is what scares me. Self-driving cars shouldn't crash, right? But this case of an injury came when a driver-controlled car crashed into another Google autonomous vehicle. 3 employees inside the Google mobile were taken to hospital with minor injuries. So, that's scary. Never use Facebook to announce a crime. When an Ohio couple posted selfies on Facebook flaunting a crash, they didn't realize police were going to look into them for a bank raid. They essentially just handed them the extra evidence they needed for a conviction. So, good for you. Sir John Sawyers became the new head of MI16's Secret Intelligence Service in 2009 and should have explained to his wife the level of privacy that they would be required. What she shouldn't have done is post personal information and pictures of him on Facebook, which she did. And finally, thousands of fans took to Twitter when they saw a press image of a girl from the group Fifth Harmony who had been poorly photoshopped. Singer Ally Brooks seemed to have 2 right feet in the photo. Brooke herself said that's the funny side of posting the picture with the comment, "When you're trying to look cute, even though you got 2 right feet." It is very easy to fail on the internet, but it's also easy for technology to fail us. So, second guess those GPSs and maybe stay out of those self-driving cars until they've really got that down pat. That's a scary one for me. Anyway, I think that's it for today. So, that's it. That is it for our crazy internet stuff. And then, therefore, it's it for our podcast. So thank you for listening to the Weird News podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you all please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. Rate the episode. That helps us. And also, please follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. That also really helps us. So thank you so much, guys, and you'll hear from me soon. Good night.